like
Sorry?
helpmate in the Bible.
Yeah,
Who's your man's helpmate?
Should know what he's talking
I know,
about.
but that's the thing. Like, why is she this little helper? Like, she's just supposed to be in the background. Why can't she lead? Why can't she do that? I think
again, to my point, a woman can. A woman can. The point is that is traditionally a masculine role, and this often comes down to what both each gender is attracted to. As I said before, a woman can have that position and want to roll and even want to be the breadwinner and so on and so forth. And she can find a guy who will be happy with that and will be happy to assume that position. I'm just saying that's going to be a more feminized man.
Okay, let's pause.
I mean, I don't
What do you
agree
think?
with that.
What do you think?
I think the most feminized men are the ones that want little girls that have no careers, no ambitions, and no drive to do anything in life. Because I think they're threatened by anybody that's like even remotely as successful or as intelligent as they are.
So you brought this up before. We didn't get to this part about. I don't hear anyone. I don't know who you're talking about when you reference like, oh, guys.
The idea that like
who are
I
you
would be
talking-
threatened by a woman that's like a leader.
They're
or
not threatened
intelligent.
though.
They just said
They're not
only
threatened.
a feminized man would
It's
be okay
not.
with that.
It's not threatened.
Okay,
This is where we differ.
Okay.
It's not that they're threatened. It's just that that's not what appeals to them because they want to be the leader. They want to take on that responsibility and they want someone next to them with an energy that's going to be more submissive. So it's not about threatened. It's just about preference. Like I want to be the man of the house. I want to provide and protect for my woman. I want to be the primary breadwinner. I want to do all this for you because I love you. And in turn, I want some things for you, which involve, I want a woman who's going to take care of the home. I want a woman who's going to want to be a great mom. I want a woman who's going to prioritize those aspects. So it's just, to me, that's not, I'm threatened by that. It's just what I want. In the same way that a woman can say, I want a guy.
Towards that relationship, yeah, that's fine. I guess.
So, but that's not threatened, though. Like I know, like I've seen you go head to head with Sneeko, with guys like that.
If you are a high value man, if you've accomplished a lot in your life, if you're achieving a lot, and if you live in a high power lifestyle, and you're just looking for a submissive bangmaid, that makes me look at you twice. It's very weird to me. But I mean, if that's what you want, I think that's fine.
That's not,
but when you could have somebody that is capable of like complementing your life in such a powerful way.
But that does complement your life.
No, it doesn't. It's
100% does.
You could swap that woman out with a million other women that could do the exact same thing. Why would you want that?
That's not true.
It
because
absolutely is true.
Those guys love those women.
That's fine, and you
dearly.
can. Yeah,
but
that's great.
But
if you're a high value man, why would you choose the bangmaid?
Why would you?
Because
want
you
a
could
woman?
have somebody that could do so
Destiny,
much more. That'd be so much cooler.
If you're a high powered man, why do you want a female version of yourself?
Why wouldn't you want somebody that can exist in your domain and thrive on your level and be a part of what you do, rather than like, this is my silly little wife that stays at home and she makes coffee for me because that's all she's capable of doing.
That woman is complimenting your life. And that, by the way, those women who choose to be stay-at-home moms, those women who choose to prioritize marriage and family, that's not because they're not capable of doing something else. A lot of those women are wicked smart. I have a friend who graduated from Princeton, opted for that lifestyle. So that's an assessment that
you can say that, but you're living in both worlds now.
Why?
You can't say they're capable, because this guy literally just said that like men are the leaders, and you probably believe that biologically men are. So you can't say like, well, women could do it, but they choose not to. No, you in your mind, you think that women are better suited for the motherly role and men are better suited for the leadership. You don't think that most women could do it. You think that they exist on a different level for men when it comes to...
I do absolutely think that most women could do it if they decided that...
So you think men and women are even in terms of what they could achieve, like leadership-wise?
I don't think we're equal because we're not the same. So I think we have different strengths and different weaknesses, which, yes, a lot for me is derived from biology when it comes to that stuff. But I'm not here to say that women are less than in terms of less intellectually and can't do this and that. And that's why they want to be, Pearl uses the word helpmate from the Bible, which essentially means that you're there to provide support for your man. You don't want to necessarily be that person out there doing the grind.
Sure.
Again, hormonally.
A bangmaid, that's fine.
But again,
that's great. If somebody wants to be that, that's fine.
But
yeah, it is.
That's,
it's a bangmaid.
That's a deeply disrespectful way.
What's disrespectful? It's a person that stays at home, takes care of your stuff, and you have sex with them.
That is not what it is. A woman who decides that she wants to be there to support that family.
Support how?
Is driving a lot of that ship.
But
what do you mean support how?
Support how?
For example, I'll give you a perfect example. Me. I stayed home for a year. In between leaving Fox News and doing this, I stayed home for a year. I loved that year. I put food on the table to nourish my family every single day. That brought me an incredible amount of joy. I took my kid out to do a bunch of stuff. I spent time with my parents. I took care of that family. I was there to provide guidance and support for my husband and ventures he was doing. I felt incredibly fulfilled that year. And that's coming from a woman who had sat on The View and had anchored roles and done all that. I didn't feel less than. In fact, I felt that when I was fully in my femininity in that year and I was fully providing that support for my family in a different way than I had ever had, I was more fulfilled than ever. That wasn't a reflection of poor intellect. That was a reflection of me kind of doing something different that felt right. So
Sure. And
who's
to be-
to
I
say
don't
that
wanna-
women can't do that?
To be, for the record, I don't want to make anything personal because I got to
But
cover the
you're
story. If it is
talking
personal,
about-
but
you're-
hold on, you're back here though, because anybody could be a mom. But that's not just what you want
Not
to
anybody
do. You
can be a
want to
mom.
Most
No,
people.
not anybody
Hold
can
on,
be a mom.
You can say that more people can be moms than can be Jedediah on Jedediah's show in Valuetainment, right? So even though I think you said earlier you have a 3-year-old running around, you're back here in the studio because you're doing what you love. You love working this stuff.
So again, yes, I am here. And
Yeah.
I'm here 3 days a week, but I'm here 3 days a week, not 5. And I'm here for 1 hour a day, 3
Sure.
days a week. Why? Because my kid comes first. That's why.
Fine, but you're
So-
still doing
but
like
again,
high value stuff.
why-
You're doing
but
cool stuff. You're not
talking
just a
about
random woman
women-
at home doing nothing and
but
take care of the household.
I'm not-
You're working too.
But me sitting here is doing cool stuff. But you know what? Me, when I'm at the playground with my 3-year-old and I'm teaching him how to do something and he's learning how to ride a bike for the first time, that's cool stuff to me.
I don't disagree. That is cool
not
stuff.
better than that. If anything, that is better than this.
Yeah, sure.
So let's just
but
be
you're,
real.
But you're still here. You can't do
Right.
everything
And
for
no-
24
but
hours a day.
no one is
Nobody's spending
saying-
24 hours a day with their kid.
No
right?
one is telling women don't work. No one is saying that. Where is that argument coming from anyone? Andrew Tate himself. I've seen
Because
him on
you were
interviews
saying that you
multiple
didn't want a
times.
woman on the grind, or it sounded like you just wanted somebody that was primarily in the household.
What I'm saying is that women aren't driven in the same way for that grind. You like to ignore biology. I like to own the fact
saying I
that
ignore
because we
biology.
are biologically driven in many ways, the fact that I do have a hormonal cycle that's this, the fact that I did want to have a child, and the fact that that did put me in a position where you have a baby for a little while, you're going to be that's going to be what you're doing. You're nursing that baby. You're exhausted. Pregnancy is not easy for everyone. That changes those realities. And I wanted to have a guy next to me who I knew would provide at that period of time. And that's how a lot of women are wired. That's why they want the option to work, but they don't want to have to work.
Sure.
That's
but
the
I mean, like, do you think
biologically.
that, and again, we don't have to talk because you brought yourself up, so that's the only reason I'm
Yeah,
asking.
no,
So you don't
cool.
have to-
And I'm down to
sure.
be.
Do you think your husband would be as attracted to you if after you had a kid, you were like, I'm done working forever and I'm just going to stay home forever?
100%.
Then why, if you enjoy spending more time with your kid,
100%.
if you enjoy spending more time with your kid than you do being
Because
here,
I'll
and
tell
if
you
you
why.
and if you
I'll
have
tell
a
you
husband
why.
to support it, why are you back here
Because
at all?
because I'm a privileged person right now, and I get to come on here 3 hours a week and get a little bit of the best of both worlds. What I'm talking about is women who are in the grind, in the corporate grind, onto the fluorescent lights, 10 hours a day. That's what I'm addressing.
But I bet you probably had to do that grind to get to where you are now, right? I doubt you. Did you just get a role on The View out of nothing? They were like, "Oh, you're cool, come."
No, but
you didn't work
that
hard to
was
get there.
never, I did work hard to get there,
Yeah.
but I never had my priorities up my butthole where I was suddenly saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna remove love from the equation. I'm
one's
going
talking
to
about
reject."
removing
They
love.
do it though. No,
When did you have your first kid? How old were you when you had your first child?
I had it late. I had my first kid late.
Because
Very
you wanted
late.
to work.
No,
You're the
that
perfect
is
feminist.
not.
I actually
that
like
is
you way more than
not.
I thought. We
That's
agreed.
not
We're
why I
past
had a kid
0.1%. We're at
Do you
like
know why I had a
10%.
kid late? I mean, we can talk about me all we want. The audience knows this story, though. It's going to get old to them. But I had a kid late, essentially. I was in New York City. I didn't want to leave my family. And I stayed in New York City way
Getting
too
your
long.
master's, I remember. I think in language or something, right?
I got a master's in 1 year and left because it
Okay.
sucked. Waste of time. Don't spend your time in a master's degree. We can disagree about that another time. And I had a baby late. And my advice to women is don't wait, because you know what? If I had started earlier, I'd probably have another kid. But I'm 44 years old and I'm in my head always about that. Like, is it safe to do it now? All that kind of stuff. But I would have had more, because the fulfillment that I got from having a child far outweighed any fulfillment I got from any career or any other nonsense that
Doesn't
was
it
going on
kind
in
of
the
feel
city
a little
in my
bit
30s.
like when you talk to some of these guys who are like 35 and they're like, yeah, you know, I've banged 150 chicks, but I regret it. I would have lived my life a lot differently if I could have it. Like, if you're a 20-year-old guy and you're looking at that dude, you're like, really, man? Or like when you're a poor
No.
person and a wealthy person is like, you know, all
No.
the money in the world, it just doesn't solve any of your problems,
that's bullshit,
guys. Right?
because we know that money does solve problems.
No, past a certain point, money absolutely does not solve
Past
your
a
problem.
certain point.
Past like $85K a year. Your
Not
life is
what-
not.
what gar-
absolutely.
that's garbage.
It is, as somebody that's been
That
on
is
both sides of it, it is
garbage. As have
absolutely
I.
true.
As have I.
It is absolutely true, okay? So you're living
100
you're
audience
living your,
don't believe that.
You're
That's a
living
lie.
your best, well, okay, if you're going to say like living in LA.
$85,000 a year?
As long
Where
as
you
you've got
living?
your, in 95% of places in
Go
the
to
United
New York
States.
City, live for $85,000 a year, come back and talk
What,
to
in
me.
Manhattan? First of all, in Manhattan,
Go.
you could make that work because you can find flats there for $2.5K a month.
Yeah, you're
going to
be
pretty
living
shitty.
in a box this big. I lived in New
Sure,
York
but
City
like, look at
my
what you just
entire
said.
life.
I gave you a salary for the entire United States. You're like, well, what about Manhattan, the third most expensive place in the world?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so in the most expensive places in the entire United States, you're probably going to need a little bit more. But my point still stands.
No, your point does not stand. People shouldn't be content with mediocrity. They
I
should
never
strive
said
for better.
people shouldn't measure mediocrity based on your salary. If you talk to any wealthy, successful person who's not trying to sell some weird Matrix red pill shit, they'll tell you that like having money to cover your bills is nice.
Money is freedom.
It's an absolute.